Delegate Kipke's flag in the back so that we can get started? Because I don't see Ryan. I'm not sure if Ryan's on board on here or not. Okay, with that said, what we usually do is we say the Pledge of Allegiance. And today it's going to be done by Delegate Dana Jones. She says it herself, if everyone else can just be muted because it's too hard to be in unison when we're on virtual. So Delegate Jones.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Merciful God, we give you thanks for giving us another day. As we meditate on all the blessings of life, we especially pray for all those who have been hurt or who are hurting and we have lost because of this pandemic and its broad repercussions. We ask your blessings for our work. May our better angels always prevail. We ask for your insight and protection in the weeks to come as we serve our shared county and state. Give us wisdom and charity to work together for the common good. May all that is done this day and this session be for your greater honor and glory. Amen.
Thank you, Delegate Jones. So at this time, I'd like to introduce some of our special guests that we have. We have our superintendent, Dr. Everybody needs to mute, please. We've got Dr. Arlotto. With him is joined, we have members of the Board of Education, President Melissa Ellis. We have board member Dana Schellheim. I saw her, I don't see her now, but she's here. And we also have our student board member, Drake Smith. We're joined by, oh, and there's our board member, Michelle Corkadell. We are joined by our senators, Senator Pam Beidel and Senator Sarah Elfreth. And we also have Monique Jackson from Dr. Arlotto's office and Dr. Maureen McMahon. So I'm going to turn it over to President Melissa Ellis. And if I've missed any introductions, I hope that you will make those for me. And then we'll have Dr. Arlotto speak after you. Thank you. President Ellis.
Thank you so much, Chairman Bartlett. Dr. Arlotto, I will let you introduce, I believe you have maybe a couple other members of your staff. I do know that board member Corkadell was trying to join, so hopefully she's made it into the meeting, but thank you for the introductions. Good morning, Chairman Bartlett, Vice Chairman Rogers, and members of the delegation. Thank you all very much for the chance to briefly talk with you this morning. Many of you attended our legislative breakfast in January, and I greatly appreciated that opportunity as well. I know our time is limited, so I want to address two key points very quickly. The first is the recent override of the blueprint for Maryland's future. It is my understanding that legislation will be forthcoming to correct some of the dates and timelines in the original bill, and I have just one request as you consider that matter. It is critical to our board that the funding that comes to us not be excessively laden with new mandates. We must be given the flexibility and local control to use funding to address the needs of our students, issues like wireless access as an example, in the manner that works the best to support the students in our system. Secondly, we need your support for the funding in the governor's budget that will hold school systems harmless for declining student enrollment during COVID-19. For budgetary purposes, our school system lost nearly 1,500 students this year to homeschool and private school settings. There are many reasons for that, and they have been debated before, but we do, I believe the vast majority of those students will return to our classroom next fall. We have an outstanding relationship with our county government, but we need to protect our outstanding school system. The reduction in student enrollment impacts per pupil funding and capital funding. If the General Assembly does not support this additional funding, we may end up with students returning to our schools and having class sizes far above what anyone would consider acceptable. We have made great strides on class size reduction in recent years, and we're trying to do so again this year. To allow the potential for drastic cuts in funding based solely on enrollment would be a mistake. I appreciate your time, and I will now turn it over to Dr. Arlotto to talk about the reopening of our schools.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Ellis, and thanks to the members of the delegation for the opportunity to spend some time with you this morning and to share our school system's plans for reopening our schools. Since all schools in the state were closed last March, we have been focused on planning for a safe, healthy, and appropriate reopening. The planning began first with stabilizing the virtual environment everyone was suddenly thrust into. As you know, we immediately put a student meal program into place, beginning on the first day of school closures. That now includes 127 sites at schools and some mobile sites across the county. We are serving 3 meals a day plus a snack to roughly 10,000 students each day. This includes any child 2 to 18 years of age, regardless of income. We will continue this meal service through the end of the school year. Earlier this month, we served our 5 millionth meal since school closures. It goes without saying that our food and nutrition services personnel are simply amazing. We acquired Chromebooks for students and laptops for staff and worked with the local internet providers to enable families to access the internet so that virtual learning could be realized for all students. Our academics team made alterations to our curriculum for better delivery of instruction in the online environment, and our teachers engaged in a record amount of professional development over the spring and summer months to prepare for the new virtual school year. This has not been an easy time for anyone, staff, students, or families. Our lives and routines have been disrupted, and that will most likely be the case for many months to come. Everyone has worked hard and approached these difficulties and challenges with grace and patience. On January 14th, our Board of Education solidified their commitment to reopening schools by targeting March 1st as that reopening date. Soon after that decision, the state superintendent of schools mandated that schools are to reopen beginning March 1st, following a plan that was submitted by each school system to and approved by the Maryland State Department of Education in August. Likewise, the governor and the Maryland Department of Health have supported the reopening of schools. Our county Department of Health has also given their support in this important endeavor. We have been working closely with Dr. Kalyana Raman and his team for many months in developing our reopening plan. Teachers and other school-based staff returned to buildings this week and are preparing for large groups of students to be back where we want them, and that's in the classrooms. The key health and safety factors to reopening schools are the mitigation strategies we have put into place, using multiple entrances and exits, student traffic and flow patterns, and ensuring our HVAC systems are operating as prescribed by county, state, and federal standards. Masks have been distributed to all staff, and face shields and additional PPE are available. Hand sanitizer stations have been placed throughout all schools and buildings, and gallon containers have been placed in all classrooms and workspaces. We have purchased electrostatic disinfecting backpack sprayers for all schools. Our incredible building service teams have been cleaning and disinfecting the buildings since March. To ensure appropriate physical distancing on school buses, we will limit the number of students on each bus and allow only 1 student per seat, with the exception of siblings from the same household. With vaccines now a reality, this will add another layer of protection for staff and students. We have partnered with the County Department of Health and our County Fire Department to acquire and administer vaccines to AACPS employees. In fact, we have held 2 clinics to date, with the County Fire Department vaccinating more than 3,300 people. another clinic is set for next week. So what is the timeline for students to return to school for in-person instruction? Our first students, those at the Centers of Applied Technology North and South, and our 3 developmental centers have already returned. The remainder of the timeline looks like this. February 2nd, our elementary ED regional centers and J. Albert Adams, all grade levels at J. Albert Adams at Mary Moss Academy, and Phoenix Academy elementary ED students will return. On February 25th, secondary ED regional centers, secondary autism classrooms, and Phoenix Academy alternative education programs and ED secondary students will return. On March 1st, students in ECI programs and all pre-kindergarten through grade 5 and elementary ACC autism and self-contained feeder classrooms will return for in-person learning. March 8th, students in grades 6, 9, and 12, as well as our secondary ACC classrooms. And on March 22nd, we'll complete the reopening with students in grades 7, 8, 10, and 11. We've developed an AABB day hybrid schedule for those students who have chosen to return to their schools. Students will engage in in-person instruction 2 days a week, either Monday and Tuesday or Thursday and Friday, with the other days remaining virtual. Wednesdays, all schools will remain closed for a thorough cleaning. Students will engage with their teacher and classmates in safe and appropriate settings. Teachers will teach students that are in front of them and those learning virtually simultaneously. This will, of course, require adjustment from everyone, staff, students, and families, but we can make this work, and I'm very optimistic that we will make this work on behalf of our students. Our people are awesome, and we are absolutely ready and excited to get going with the reopening of schools. Finally, a word about athletics. We began a shortened fall sports season this week that will see our high schools play competitive games over a 4-week period once our student athletes are conditioned. That will be followed by a shortened spring competitive season with, hopefully, some type of state playoffs in late May. With that, I'll stop and we'll take any questions you have. I just want to again let you know that I'm joined today by Mrs. Monique Jackson, one of our deputy superintendents, Dr. Maureen McMahon, our other deputy superintendent, Mr. Alex Shaknovich, our chief operating officer, Mr. Bob Mosier, our chief communications officer, and Mrs. Jeanette Ortiz, our policy and legislative counsel. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Alato. I appreciate that. And we have questions. I have one quick question. So as it stands now with the students who have been back, can you give us just a quick feedback on how that's going with respect from the students' perspective?
So what I can share with you are the pictures that principals are sending to me, and there's lots of smiles on students' faces and on staff's faces. They are so excited to welcome students back. As you can see through our timeline, primarily through the month of February, we have focused on those students that we believe are in the greatest need in terms of being with their teachers, where we were not able to provide full supports to them in the virtual environment. So we have focused on our most needy students in the special education sector, and they are delighted to be back in building. So right now, all appears to be going well with those groups. Of course, the CAT centers are back, and because they are much in need of that hands-on instruction in those technical fields, and they're now getting that. So they're excited to be back in their schools.
Great. Well, so we have a lot of questions, and I'll tell you, I'll announce the order now. I can't put it in the chat at the moment, but Delegate Mike Rogers, Delegate Ned Carey, Senator Vital, Delegate Lehman. Actually, you know what? Just about everybody has a question. So let's just start with Delegate Mike Rogers, and then I'll just go down the list and call on folks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Dr. Alato, President Ellis. Always good to see the Anne Arundel County Public School System team here. and always a pleasure to dialogue with you. So I have two questions, and I'll set it up by saying, we've spent a lot of time this session talking about health disparities as in particular as it relates to Black and brown communities. And I noticed that there is I guess a vaccination point located in Severna Park. And so I was kind of curious as to the decision-making process as to why it was located there. Has any consideration been given to locating a vaccination site at, say, like a Meade High School or an Annapolis High School? And then, as you and I have talked about before, Dr. Alato, I'm really interested in knowing, and perhaps I know you mentioned that it might have something to do, or you may have to check with the county, but in terms of our teachers and making sure that they're receiving the vaccinations and what that looks like from a county-wide perspective in terms of the numbers of teachers across the county that are having the opportunity to get vaccinated, what that looks like. So that's question one. And question two really has to deal with sort of a land use issue with land located over at Van Bachlen. That's something, there's an intergenerational center that's being built there. And as you know, that's right outside of some of, a particular underserved community, some underserved communities in West County. And I just wanted to get us an idea of where that's at and if the board's making any movement there. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vice Chair Rogers. So let me start with your first part. We are encouraging all staff to take advantage of the vaccine clinic that we are putting together in conjunction with the Department of Health and our fire department. So we have sent out emails to all sets, not just teachers. It's our building service team, it's our construction team, it's our food nutrition service team, front office secretaries, TAs, principals. Everybody is invited to take advantage of the vaccines. We have a tremendous return rate. Right now, it's hovering at about 86% of our staff has agreed to be vaccinated. As you and I have talked about several times over the last couple of weeks, Delegate Rogers, it's a choice. And so while I'm encouraging staff to get vaccinated, it is their choice. Regarding the location, we are open to opening clinics wherever our fire department believes they can do the work the best. So they chose Severna Park High School. We agreed it's a good central location with several large parking lots. It's easy to get to. It also has all the right components in terms of having the cafeteria is right. If you haven't been to the new building, the cafeteria is right there at the edge of the parking lot. So it has made for easy entrance and exit, and to set up the lines that are indoors, as well as the location of where the vaccines are physically being delivered into the arms of our staff. So it fit so many criteria for our fire department. We looked at other buildings. This was the one we did. I don't know, Mr. Shaknovich and his team may have done 4 or 5 or 6 different physical walkthroughs of Severna Park to make sure that the layout worked. If the fire department is ready to, and we'll continue to have conversations with them, we're glad to open other high schools, but Severna Park works on many levels, so much of the reason being because of the large parking lots, the easy access to the building, and the easy access to the large environment of the cafeteria, and then the gym. Once we get everybody vaccinated, we then have to have people to move in for a minimum of a 15-minute wait period before they can exit the premises after being inoculated, and that is a medical safety precaution. So the layout has really worked well for us. Your second point, Delegate Rogers, regarding the intergenerational center, we are incredibly excited and supportive of this project. As you know, this is a project that has changed in scope a little bit over a decade plus in planning. We're excited that it is moving through the process. We have targeted the month of March. I believe the second board meeting in March is when all the paperwork will be delivered to our board for their approval. There are some final touches being put on a couple of different pieces of the project, but not the least of which is the deed has to be finalized, and the board's attorney, along with the county office of law, is working on the final touches of that deed. Once that is completed, we'll bring it to our board for their approval, and then it will go to the state for approval for the land transfer.
Thank you for that, Dr. Arlotto. I have some follow-ons, but I'm gonna hold off because I know a number of my colleagues have questions as well. So thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Vice Chair Rogers. I'm going to call on Senator Vital next because I think her question is in line with some of what you just mentioned with the Severn Intergenerational Center. Senator Vital, you just need to unmute.
Okay, I'm on my iPad this morning. I'm usually on my laptop, so thank you for your patience and thank you for calling on me. Dr. Arlotto, I just, number one, want to thank you and your staff for all the work you've done with virtual learning. I just can't imagine what it's been like to change all your processes. And we in the state are going to continue to try to help you with the broadband access and try to, keep your funding level. We're going to do everything we can to support the school system, the wonderful school system that we have in the county. And I thank you. And it was really good news to hear that you will have the deed of the Intergenerational Center ready for the second meeting in March. I would love for it to be in the first meeting in March, because as you know, once your school board is completed, we need to deal with the bureaucracy in the state at the IAC. So that's a whole new bureaucracy that will start. But I just appreciate, we've had a lot of conversations about it, you and I really appreciate your help in getting this moving forward. So not a question, but a statement just to thank you. And thank you, Chairman Bartlett.
Thank you, Senator Vital. Dr. Arlotto, did you want to respond or shall I move on?
No, I'm glad to respond. Thank you. Yes, Senator Biden, I appreciate the conversations you and I have had over the years on this project, and most recently just a week or so ago. If the Office of Law and our board's attorney are able to get the deed in the appropriate working order, it certainly could go forward to the board. There's nothing keeping it from going forward to the board other than when they give us the green light and they tell us it's ready. So if it's finished for the March 3rd board meeting, we'll certainly put it on the agenda. But we're very confident, or I'm confident, that it would be done at the very latest by the second meeting in March.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to move to Delegate Carey. Has a comment or question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to the board, and good morning to you, Dr. Arlotto. It's always good to see you.
Good morning, Delegate Carey. How are you?
Good. Hey, I have a couple of questions. First question is talking about sports starting back up. Will the parents be allowed to be at these sporting events?
So that's a great question. We have not gotten that far in the process. I didn't want to make a declarative statement too early. Right now, there are some limits in the county and the state as to how many you can have in a gathering. And so we'll sort of see. We're several weeks away from competitions occurring. As we get closer to that, we'll make a decision. My guess is that if we do, when we do allow spectators, Delegate Carey, it's going to be very limited. And that's really the key, is that, and I know you support this, the key is that the student athletes get a chance to be with their teammates, to practice the sport that they love, and to compete. And as much as we want to get our parents and spectators in the stands to watch them, that's not the focus. The focus is on the health and safety of the student athletes. We do have the ability to live stream contests that are in our stadiums. So if we are unable to bring fans in, we do have the ability to broadcast both in any contest in our gyms and in our main stadiums. We have the ability to live stream.
Which is a great thing, but I'll just say this to the board members. You and I both know, when I was a board member, parents are very, very passionate about sports, especially those of student athletes. But I think the live streaming abilities that you all have is fantastic. I mean, I've watched some of them myself and they're great. Second quick question is about PPE, and those kinds of things for staff. So are you giving these out to staff? Do they have to go get them? Do they bring their own? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so we've purchased, regarding masks, we've purchased 5 masks for every employee in the system, and they've been delivered. Someone brought me 5 masks a number of months ago. We've delivered them to the schools. Now that staffs are arriving back into their buildings, they'll have access to those 5 masks. We also have additional PPE. We have face shields, gloves, we have gowns. There are several job categories, particularly in our special centers, that are really going to require staff to wear a face shield, a mask, gloves, and a gown. We have all of that available for the staff. We also have, while each building and workspace has been well stocked with hand sanitizer and disinfecting wipes, we have those in our warehouse and in stock also. So just like any other commodity that the school runs out of, they would contact the warehouse to have additional delivered.
Thank you, Dr. Arlotto. Thank you. And I want to say thank you for your leadership with the school system during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Carey.
All right, we're going to move to Delegate Heather Bagnall.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Arlotto, for being here today. I just had a couple questions. One, regarding the buses, I know that we have protocols in place, but my question is, who is going to be in charge of maintaining those protocols? As we've seen throughout the pandemic, sometimes the minute that we make a rule, there's a will to break it, and I'm hoping that we're not making the driver responsible for sort of policing behavior on the bus while they're driving. And my other question is around infections. One of the things that we learned in health and government operations was around our nursing homes. One infection meant they had to shut everything down, but there wasn't a consideration about how much contact that person had with the residents within the facilities. So what does that look like if we do discover an infection in the school system? Because comparing it to the private schools isn't really sort of an apples to apples comparison. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Delegate Bagnall, for those 2 questions, because they are important. The first regarding buses, we don't see it necessarily as a will to break the rules, but we are dealing with children, right? And so wearing your mask, staying in your seat, staying 6 feet apart, and maintaining that appropriate distancing are going to be challenges for our students, particularly our youngest students. The unfortunate reality is, yes, it's the bus driver that is left to enforce those rules. Where we have the ability to put bus aids on buses, that will be occurring, but that's not going to be occurring on our 600 plus buses that will be running the routes each and every day. And so it really is up to the bus driver. Those bus drivers have been trained, and if they have an incident that they believe where the student is putting themselves or others in danger, they are to pull off to the side of the road. They are to correct the behavior. They are not to correct the behavior, of course, while they're operating the bus itself. But they'll have to pull over, and if necessary, they can call for assistance, and then our transportation staff, which are on the roads throughout the mornings and afternoons when buses are running their routes, will be there to assist. And so we will do our best. We will ask students and parents to do their best to follow the rules. We know we have some students that won't, and that is just the nature of working with 85,000 children, and that's okay. But parents know that they are making a choice, that their student is to follow the rules of masking and distancing and hand sanitizing and those things. Maintaining those mitigation strategies are all important, and parents, that is part of the choice they are making in sending their child to in-person instruction. I've completely forgotten your second point, which was, my apologies.
That's okay. If there is an infection or an outbreak,
yes,
what that looks like in terms of the impact to the schools.
Yeah. So great question. And this is, so in our ongoing planning, the planning that has been occurring for months with our Department of Health, this is certainly not our expertise, so we're relying on the public health experts to help us establish what those rules and protocols will be. The short answer is it depends, right? Every situation and every student or staff member that may test positive or be a close contact for a positive case is going to be different, right? And so we have established, or we are establishing contact tracing teams. Now that our schools are opening, the school nurses are going back to their buildings. As you're well aware, the school nursing unit has been the primary contact tracers for the county. Now that they're coming back to us in the schools, we, the school system, are bringing in retired or hired folks, and we're building our own contact tracing teams, both for adults and for students. So when there is a known positive case among an adult or a student, or a student has, or adult has COVID-like symptoms, we'll have processes and protocols in place. It could very well mean that it's just that adult that has to quarantine, or just that student or group of students has to quarantine. It could be an entire class, say an entire fourth grade class will have to quarantine. It could be a cohort. It could very well be a school. It depends on the spread, the number of cases in that building that are related. And if there is a case spread, we will be working, and in each one of those cases, whether it's an individual, a classroom, a cohort, or a building, we'll be working arm in arm with the Department of Health. They'll be advising us on what the next steps are, as they would with any other health crisis. But we have those process and protocols in place. The Maryland Department of Health, in conjunction with the Maryland State Department of Education, have put together a flow chart of sort of an if-then that we are to follow when we do have positive cases or those that have COVID-like symptoms in a building. We also have, and if you and your colleagues are not aware, one of the rules in reopening, in our reopening plan by the state, one of the mandates is we have to have a isolation area in every building. So if a student develops COVID-like symptoms during the school day, each building has to have an isolation area, and we have those established in each one of our schools.
Thank you so much. And as we're looking at the athletics, I have to make the same pitch I always do, which is don't forget the artists and the sciences and the STEM programs and robotics. I know it goes without saying, we've talked about that, but I would feel remiss if I didn't mention it. Thank you.
I appreciate you mentioning that, but they're all included. They're having their club and meeting activities now.
Thank you. Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Arlotto and board members. Dr. Arlotto, I appreciate you trying to navigate this giant ship through these waters. I know it's tough. You had mentioned in your testimony that you're trying to address those most in need. And unfortunately, you know, we had another suicide yesterday at my alma mater, and every time, these are tragic. And so my question is, and because I've heard from a lot of angry parents that we can't get our child back into school, how much weight is being applied to the decision-making when it comes to some of the mental health issues, or parents that say my kid is at the breaking point and needs to be back in school? Are we bringing, I get the health department in on that decision at any time? Or how is that decision made? Because I got to be able to answer some of these parents that are obviously upset. I know you hear from them as well.
I do indeed, and thank you, Delegate Chisholm. And we did indeed lose a student that took her own life from your alma mater, and I can't describe how it crushes a school community, and so I do appreciate you bringing that up, and the school is working diligently to support the family and to support this young lady's friend. She was well loved and well known among her school community, and they're working diligently, as well as our county supports. Our crisis team is just fabulous, and Lieutenant Thomas and his team and Jen Corbin are out there supporting these young folks, as well as the family. So, but to directly answer your question, it's absolutely at the top of the list, right? So instruction is what we're all about, right? I hate losing any time to instruction. It's what I've been focused on for 30 plus years of my career. But the mental health and well-being of our students is at the top of the list. So it's absolutely part of our conversations each and every day. And yes, if you haven't had an opportunity to hear Dr. Kalyana Raman talk about this issue and the reopening of schools, when he talks about the reopening schools, he talks about risk, the risk factors, and weighing the risks of possible exposure to the virus with not being in schools and students not being with their peers and their mental and well-being being impacted by that. So the two are inextricably linked, and it's important. I appreciate you bringing that up because we have to continue to understand that we are reopening schools. We are reopening schools in a health and safety safe manner. I believe with the mitigation strategies we have in place, we can bring small groups of students, hybrid, meaning we're not ready to bring everybody back, but small groups of students back in the buildings with our staff, and we can do so safely if everybody follows the plan. And that then gives parents, to your point, Delegate Chisholm, a choice. If they really believe their student can best be served by at least 2 days a week in the school, it's not ideal. None of us believe that this is ideal, and none of us ask for this. Our school system staff, our parents and students included. But we have to continue to think about their mental well-being, and we want to give them that choice if their choice is to remain virtual because they believe the risk is too high on the health factor in terms of their physical health with regard to the virus. I completely understand that, and that's the reason we're giving that choice.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. We're always here to help. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Senator Elfreth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board. My question's about capital, to switch gears a little bit. But part of the Kerwin bill, as we all know, includes the Built to Learn Act, which is $2.2 billion new dollars a year for public schools. We requested a meeting with Bob and Alex about 2 weeks ago. We haven't heard back yet, but our delegation's particularly interested in how that new injection of money is going to impact your capital planning and what we can expect and what we can tell our constituents about bringing that money back home. Part of that money back home.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Elfreth. I am sorry that you've not heard back. We are delighted always to meet with you and your colleagues, particularly when it comes to finding us additional money. We spend our money well, particularly in the capital area. Mr. Shaknovich, any comments regarding the Built to Learn Act and the direct impact on Anne Arundel County?
Certainly, thank you. And again, good morning. My name is Alex Shaknovich, Chief Operating Officer, and absolutely, Senator Elfreth, I would be beyond pleased to meet with you and the members of the delegation in support of that capital budget. So our request that the superintendent recommended and the board adopted has a request of approximately $62 million from the state to support our CIP, our capital program. Using the conventional IAC methodology, they've already issued their 90% recommendations. According to that, Anne Arundel County Public Schools would only be receiving capital support of about $30 million. So about 30 of the 62. We are absolutely hoping that, as the governor indicated, that the Built to Learn Act funding would then be that gap bridge to bring our funding level from approximately $30 million using the conventional $280 million a year that the governor typically puts out to close the gap. Now, Anne Arundel County Public Schools, as the delegation knows, has been extremely supportive of AACPS in terms of our capital funding, and they have forward funded many of our projects, and that's really been able to keep our project timelines intact and not had us lose too much ground. But as everybody knows, there are limits to that, Senator, and the county government certainly is also looking forward to backfilling some of those dollars that they have gone out on the limb to forward fund, that then in turn would deleverage those old bonds, and then they can use that capital bonding authority to now yet again advance more projects. So it's a little bit of like a flywheel process, and we absolutely wish, want, and encourage any influence and support you have in terms of the capital budget. And my last comment is, I know Senator Vital is intimately involved in several bond bills that would support some of the public school infrastructure here. And to the extent that you could support Senator Vital's good work, we would certainly be appreciative.
Of course, anything Senator Vital wants, we're partners in this, and we do have the privilege of having the capital budget chair here as well with Delegate Ben Barnes. And I can speak for my colleagues. I can't speak for them, but I can tell you it's our intention. We hear every school system on the maintenance of effort. I'm sorry, on the population issue that President Ellis spoke about earlier today, and it is a priority for us as well to keep our school systems whole. So please know that you've done a great job of lobbying, and we hear you, and it's a priority for us.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Arlotto, and all the members of AACPS and your staff for being here. Thank you, President Ellis, and all the board members. This has been very informative, and I hope that we have been able to answer the questions that our constituents have. At least we've been emboldened with more information. So we thank you for that, and we will continue to go to the website for more information and just pick up the phone and call you all. So thank you. Thank you for being here. You may stay for the remainder of the meeting. We are going to go into our voting session now. It's up to you. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Madam Chair, I'm headed to a PZAM meeting with Dr. Salmon. So I'll leave you to your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be safe and
Thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you so much. It's great to see you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
With that said, let's move into our voting session. Our first bill is House Bill 680, Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners, Chief Inspector. This bill is sponsored by Delegate Rogers. Delegate Rogers, do you have an amendment?
Chair Bartlett, I do. Matt, could you cover the amendment, please?
Absolutely. Good morning. The amendment here strikes the requirement that the chief inspector be full-time and instead leaves that open for interpretation, rather that be part-time or full-time. That is at the discretion of the board, and it specifies that the annual salary shall be $30,000.
Is there a motion on the amendment?
Move the amendment.
Second.
It has been moved and second on the amendment. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none. Secretary, call the roll.
Can I ask the legal counsel for the amendment number, please? For the record.
Yes, the amendment ID is House Bill 680/896519/1.
On the amendment, Delegate Bagnell,
Yes.
Delegate Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Carey,
Yes.
Delegate Chang,
Yes.
Delegate Chisholm,
Yes.
Delegate Henson,
Yeah.
Delegate Howard,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Kipke,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman, Delegate Lehman,
They have the money for it. See, one
Delegate Malone,
Yes.
Delegate Payne Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Rogers,
Yes.
Delegate Saab,
Yes.
Chairman Bartlett.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, the vote is 14-0 and the motion passes.
Also, I'd like to announce that some of our members that are serve on both Prince George's County and Anne Arundel County are having to do double duty this morning. So, so we'll have to try to, if you don't hear a vote, it is because they're trying to do 2 counties at one time. And unfortunately, due to some scheduling error, we are voting, we're on at the same time. We usually can work that out, but today we were not able to.
Move
Can I
the
tell
bills
you, Madam
amended.
Chair, I'll make you laugh. I have 2 laptops right now. I have Arundel on the left, Prince George's on the right. So I know it was a mistake and I appreciate it, you know, in the future. It makes it a little bit stressful, but I'm doing it.
And we
Thank you.
appreciate you all for accommodating. Thank you for being here.
Jocelyn, you got to switch those laptops, man. Arundel is on the right, Prince George's is on the left. Just saying.
I like
I only have
that.
one laptop, so move the bills amended.
Second. With that said, that was on the amendment. Now let's vote on the, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second on the bill as amended. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
On House Bill 680 as amended, Delegate Bagnall,
Yes.
Delegate Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Carey,
Yes.
Delegate Chang,
Yes.
Delegate Chisholm,
Yes.
Delegate Henson,
Yes.
Delegate Howard,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Kipke,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman, Delegate Malone,
Yes.
Delegate Payne Melnick,
And I asked my neighbor.
Yes.
Delegate Rogers,
Yes.
Delegate Saab,
Yes.
Chairman Bartlett.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, the vote is 14-0 and the motion passes.
Thank you. And please provide the Economic Matters copy of the appropriate letter. We're going to move on to House Bill 901, Anne Arundel County Hotel Tax Alterations, Distribution of Revenue. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move favorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. Are there any questions or concerns or comments? Seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
On House Bill 901, Delegate Bagnall,
Yes.
Delegate Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Carey,
Yes.
Delegate Chang,
Yes.
Delegate Chisholm,
No.
Delegate Henson,
Yes.
Delegate Howard,
No.
Delegate Howard, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No.
The official there?
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Kipke,
No.
Delegate Lehman, Delegate Malone,
No.
Delegate Payne Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Rogers,
Yes.
Delegate Saab,
No.
Delegate, Chairman Bartlett.
Yes.
We could have probably went party line on that.
Madam Chairman, the vote is 9-5 and the motion passed.
Thank you. Please prepare a letter in support of the bill to the appropriate committee, Ways and Means. Next is our bill is House Bill 933, Anne Arundel County Transfer Tax Housing Trust Special Revenue Fund. Is there a motion on the
Move
bill?
unfavorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any question or discussion on the bill?
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
just a point of clarification. Did we just move the bill unfavorable?
There is a motion for unfavorable.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Can I go get breakfast in a little bit? It's like right across.
Is there any other question? Are there any other questions or Delegate Carey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me just understand, from my perspective, this bill is only enabling, and I'm assuming that what we would do is enable them. This isn't, I know how some of our colleagues feel, but for me, this would be enabling. And I guess when I look around the district, I see this for us in up here in this part of the county as a potential opportunity, particularly with all of the revitalization efforts that we've got going on and the programs that the county are doing through ACDS to help us, whether it's revitalizing vacant homes, whether it's helping seniors do improvements to their homes. So, this just would enable the county to do this. So I just say that about this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Carey. Delegate Bagnall, did you have another comment or question?
I did, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, did this bill go to subcommittee, and what was the subcommittee report?
Delegate Henson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Public Health Subcommittee met on February 17th. All members were present in attendance. We did vote on the bill. We did consider the bill, and there was unanimous support amongst the subcommittee for this bill.
Thank you.
Delegate Chisholm.
Just on that, she's correct. I agreed to let it go to delegation. It is enabling, but this does not solve a problem. I'm just going to make a statement. The only thing that brings down prices, and we're all for affordable housing, is supply and demand. This is basic supply and demand. It's gone on forever. The government trying to step in is going to cause things to go higher. If you want prices to go lower, you reduce regulation so there's more supply. That's just bottom line. That's not political. That's just an economic fact. And I don't think this helps, so I'm not going to support it. I support affordable housing. I just don't support this bill.
Can I say something, Madam Chair?
Delegate Howard.
It's my understanding also too that a lot of these houses that they're targeting for this tax will be thrown immediately into an LLC, therefore avoiding the tax. So if the county executive wants to raise taxes on these properties, he's more than willing to. He's on the record to do it, so that he wants to do it. So if he wants to raise taxes on these properties, he's more than, he can do it. But at the end of the day, and he should, if that's the way he feels, then he should. And he should take a property tax increase directly to the county council. But the fact of the matter is that these properties that they're aiming to tax will be thrown into an LLC, and that LLC will be dissolved immediately upon the sale of the home, and that the tax will be avoided, period. And this is not the time or the vehicle, in my opinion.
Madam Chair,
Delegate Henson.
may I ask for a point of clarity?
Yes.
The motion that's on the table, the unfavorable motion by Delegate Howard, a no vote on that motion, it would move to defeat the motion. And then there would be an opportunity for, Madam Chair, and then there would be an opportunity for an additional motion. Is that correct, Madam Chair?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Delegate Saab.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not on the subcommittee, and I understand that the subcommittee have moved it, favorable. But I think we're rushing into this bill because I think there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences, and we're leaving way too many doors open for the county to interpret those taxes. And I think in the long run, as Delegate Howard mentioned, that's going to actually have a negative impact versus a positive impact. And this has nothing to do with affordable housing because we do have money and funds to put in affordable housing, just the county executive chose not to. But I think we're, as a delegation, we're just rushing this bill, where even though it's enabling, the county council will have the authority to basically create whatever tax structure that's going to be detrimental to our real estate market. And, so it's, I still don't understand what happened in the subcommittee, except that it was voted unanimously. So I would ask that we can actually hold the bill and think about it a little bit further before we make a huge mistake. That's hard to fix.
Thank you, delegates. Was that Delegate Henson?
Yes, Madam Chair. May I believe that the testimony from the county executive's office was that over the course of the administration, that the county executive first put forward a non-discrimination ordinance to open access to housing in Anne Arundel County, and thereafter opened inclusionary zoning to make sure that housing could be affordable in Anne Arundel County as well. And this is a part of a comprehensive package of legislation. And this one needs the enabling authority and support of this delegation to make sure that there is a funding mechanism now that the county executive and the authority can open the zoning and the access to do that. Those structures do have to be built, and in order to do that, there has to be support for that. If rents are going to be below market, if homes are going to be sold below market, they do have to have some sort of funding mechanism that gives the opportunity for those developers and builders to still be able to be made whole. I believe that was the testimony that we had from the county executive at the bill's hearing.
Thank you, Delegate Henson. I do not wish to hold the bill. The committee needs our decision before they can set the hearing date for the bill. So with that said,
I want to push the motion to hold the bill.
well, we have a motion unfavorable currently, so we've got to entertain that motion, and then we will entertain all motions after that. Is there any other questions? Are there any other questions or concerns? With seeing none, on the motion, this is an unfavorable motion. Secretary, please call the roll.
On the unfavorable motion on House Bill 933, Delegate Bagnell,
No.
Delegate Barnes,
No.
Delegate Carey,
No.
Delegate Chang,
No.
Delegate Chisholm,
Yes.
Delegate Henson,
No.
Delegate Howard,
Aye on the unfavorable.
Delegate Jones,
No.
Delegate Kipke,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman, Delegate Malone,
Yes.
Delegate Pena-Melnick, Delegate Rogers,
No.
I'm
Delegate-
sorry, Pena-Melnick, did you hear me?
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay, I'm a no.
Thank you. Delegate Saab,
Yes.
Chairman Bartlett,
No.
Madam Chairman, the vote is 9 to 5, and the motion fails.
Move favorable.
Second.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Delegate Saab.
I had to put a motion to hold the bill.
Actually, Delegate Saab, you did want to hold the bill. I did not have a chance to hear your motion, nor did I have a chance to get a second on your motion. So the current motion on the floor is to move favorable, and it has been seconded. That is a motion that I am entertaining at the moment. Do you have any questions or concerns about that motion?
I'm sorry, do I have a question about motion about moving the bill?
Yes, that is the motion that is on the floor now, to move the bill.
Well, I mean, obviously my concern, which I stated, I think this is, obviously it's a bad bill to begin with, but I think it's being rushed. So my concern is, like, I don't think as a delegation, we should rush into something that's going to be detrimental to our, state's, county's economy. And I don't think this legislation has been really thought through of the impact that it would have on our real estate market and to follow. So, again, I think we're putting the hand of the future of our economy, of our county, into 5-6 people. And I just think it's just wrong. I think this is something we need to think about further. I don't think there was enough vetting, and we're giving the county council way too much power and the county executive to just raise taxes on our real estate market. But we
Thank
can
you.
go ahead and-
Madam Chair, thank you. And just to reiterate on what Delegate Saab was saying, there was a lot of unanswered questions in this bill on where the taxing would start. So I had problems with that, but I do also want to point out, we do have affordable housing. One of the I guess the most prominent places, first ones to do it was San Francisco, which also happens to be the most expensive place in the country to live now. So this is one of those pieces of legislation. Everybody wants to help, but sometimes your help really just hurts. And this is just my warning that this bill is not going to have the intended result that everybody's looking for. And in no way in good favor could I vote for this bill.
Delegate Bagnall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to clarify once again, as Delegate Carey stated, this is enabling legislation. So the outcome is not determined by this body. Is that correct? That this just enables the county to move forward and create those, create this mechanism.
That is correct.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Delegate Howard.
Again, the mechanism is flawed. It's about $800 in total to create an LLC. These LLCs will be created. The sale of the home will be put under the LLC, and the 3% tax will be avoided. It's a bad vehicle. Forget the bad tax argument and the tax increase and the old DNR tax fight. It's a bad vehicle, period. And as a delegation or not, send it to the county council or not, we shouldn't let the bill move forward because it's a bad vehicle. It's a bad policy. Thank you.
I see no other hands raised. Secretary, call the roll.
On House Bill 933, Delegate Bagnell,
Yes.
Delegate Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Carey,
Yes.
Delegate Chang,
Yes.
Delegate Chisholm,
No.
Delegate Henson,
Yes.
Delegate Howard,
No.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Kipke,
No.
Delegate Lehman,
Yes.
Delegate Malone,
No.
Delegate Payne Melnick,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Delegate Saab,
No.
Chairman Bartlett.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, the vote is 9-5 and the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, did you get Delegate Pina Melnick's?
I'm sorry, I did not.
She did vote.
Okay,
and
I
we were close
voted
together.
for the bill.
Yes.
I voted yes.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, the vote is 10-5 and the motion passes.
Thank you. Please send the appropriate letter in support of the bill from the delegation. Moving on to House Bill 1136, Anne Arundel
Madam Chair, I have a quick question.
Alcoholic beverage licenses annual fee. This bill is sponsored by Delegate Chisholm. Delegate Chisholm, is there an amendment on the bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's an amendment. I don't know if we heard the first amendment. Amendment number 1 says that if there's a surplus after all operational budgetary expenses are met, then that surplus, rather than going to the general fund, would be reimbursed back to the license holder who has paid the licensing fee at a percentage. So if there was a $500,000 paid by these individual entities, and there was a $300,000 surplus, that would be a 60%. That 60% would be equally distributed back to all of the license holders as a percentage. So if they paid $1,000 in fee, they would get 600 back. I think we heard testimony 2 weeks ago that there was a surplus. Typically, I don't know what the surplus is going to be this year. That's amendment number 1. I did that to make sure it was revenue neutral to the operating budget of the alcohol committee and commission. Amendment number 2 struck 2 different types of licenses. One was just a racetrack license. We only have 1 racetrack that was included. We didn't feel like they needed the reimbursement. Everybody needs it, but they were probably not as deserving as some of these other small operations that were having a hard time. And we also eliminated H in a parentheses M, which indicates multiple. It does have some of our local restaurants like the Broadneck Grill and Glory Days, but unfortunately, it also included the Outbacks, the Fridays, and a couple of those other big organizations that hopefully have help coming from above, whereas the Broadneck Grill, but we did eliminate them in Amendment 2. So it's now removed from the bill. They would not be entitled to a reimbursement if the bill is to pass into law.
Thank you, Delegate Chisholm. Matt, do you happen to have the bill available to share a screen to see the amendment? If not,
Yes.
That's fine. I just didn't know if you had it available.
I do. Let's see if I can. Share.
Okay. With that said, staff, can you please make Matt a co-host so that he can share the screen?
Yeah.
And if everyone, and staff, mute everyone, please, except for Matt. Okay, you are a co-host now, Matt, and you can share your screen. Okay, this is the delineated version of the bill. So if everyone can take a quick moment to review it in case you have any questions or might not have been able to put every piece together when the amendment was explained.
Chair Bartlett.
Vice Chair Rogers.
Just for the edification of the delegation, I would mention that this bill did pass out of the subcommittee unanimously.
As amended?
As amended.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions now that you can see the delineated version? Are there any questions by the delegation? And staff, it looks like I cannot see the raised hand, so you'll have to indicate if there's any questions. Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, soon after the Recovery Act passed last week, I had received some inquiries from some restaurant operators in the county as certain parameters about that bill. And, you know, I was excited that some of them are going to receive assistance through the sales tax credit, but others aren't. Your sales have to be pretty low to not to qualify for that assistance. For example, there was a brewery here in Annapolis who reached out and I had to tell them that they're not going to qualify. You know, we did our best, but, you know, it's hard to find something that's going to help everybody. So I just want to speak in favor of the bill that's before us as it's amended. It's going to help a lot of people and it's going to help them, you know, and I think at a time that's really critical for them as to whether or not they're going to have the cash flow to continue to operate. So, I appreciate the maker of the bill's intent and the work that's gone into trying to help help the locally owned restaurants and exclude the big corporate types. And just very grateful for the effort. So thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Kipke. Are there any other questions or comments on the bill on the amendment?
Move the amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
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 And Matt, you can take down your screen. Thank you. So we have a motion to move the amendment and a second. Are there any questions or comments or need for clarification? Delegate Chang.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This question is addressed to the subcommittee or the maker of the amendment or the liquor board. Do we know what previous reserves had been allocated towards in previous years?
I received a physical note that the reserves or the surplus is usually in the $350,000 range. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year because we had so many restaurants go out of business. I don't know how much revenue they've actually received at this point, but on average, according to the physical note, it's usually around 350,000. They usually collect about $1 million, and it's about 650 to 750 to run that commission.
Right. Do we know what the surplus is used for from previous years?
It goes into the general fund, so I'm not sure, which does beg the question, does it become a tax then and not a fee? The fee is designed, and this is for a later conversation, the fee is designed to help the operating budget of the alcohol commission, but then if it goes above and beyond, it goes in a general fund. Delegate Kipke asked a very important question. Does it become a tax then? And has this money always been, I guess, rightfully sent back to the payers of the alcohol fee? But I don't know that answer, but it's typically $350,000.
If I may, to the maker of the amendment, do you know what the general fund is utilized for? Some examples?
No, that's a great question for somebody that understands the budget a little better in Anne Arundel County. I think Delegate Barnes might be raising his hands.
I guess to the liquor board, does the liquor board have a position on this bill, on this amendment?
Yes, I spoke with the chairman at length. He was very happy and satisfied with the amendment because it had no negative effect on them.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Delegate Pena-Melnick.
And forgive me if you answer this. I'm really trying to focus on both delegation. It's a challenge. Where is the county on this? Did you answer that they're supportive?
They took a neutral position.
Okay, so their county's neutral. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Vice Chair Rogers.
Madam Chair, no, I didn't have a question. I know we were on the amendment, so.
Yes, okay. And I would like to, just one point I'd like to make, and that is the racetrack license has been removed, but given the fact that the racetrack is in my district, while they are very deserving, as Delegate Kipke said, we were not able to include everyone. But we are hoping to help as many people as we could. So with that,
I concur with Chair Bartlett on that as well, because we're together.
That's right, same district.
They do pay $25,000 per year.
Yes, and we love the racetrack.
We do.
So with that said, I see no other hands raised, either literally or virtually. So we are on the amendment. Secretary, please take the roll.
Madam Chairman, on the amendment to House Bill 1136, Delegate Bagnall.
Yes.
Delegate Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Carey,
Yes.
Delegate Chang,
Yes.
Delegate Chisholm,
Yes.
Delegate Henson.
No. Where do you want to go?
I'm sorry, Delegate Henson,
Delegate Henson,
someone has,
there you go.
we'll have to mute except when you're called, please. Delegate Henson, I have missed your vote.
Yes.
Delegate Howard,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Kipke,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman. Delegate Lehman,
She's leading a bill over in Prince George's, so.
okay. Delegate Malone,
Yes.
Delegate Payne Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Rogers.
Yes.
Delegate Saab,
Yes.
Chairman Bartlett.
Yes, and could you circle back to Delegate Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Delegate Rogers, yes.
Sorry, I thought I heard.
You
Yes, on
heard
Rogers.
Delegate Pina Melnick twice. But she had my back though. She was just covering down for me, like a good delegate that covers 2 counties does.
Right. Madam Chairman, the vote is 14-0 and the motion passes.
Thank you. Please quickly get that letter over to the ECM Alcohol Subcommittee and let them know.
Madam Chair,
We didn't vote on the bill. We voted.
Madison, that was on the amendment.
That's right. Just hold on. Now we're going, so we have moved the amendment. Now we're going to vote on the bill. That is, if I have a motion for the
Move
on the bill
favorable.
as amended.
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay, now what I'm going to ask everyone to do is to please keep yourself on mute. Please answer on the roll call vote just once, because it's really hard when we have more than one person talking at the same time, because the secretary cannot hear. Madam Secretary, please call the roll call vote.
Madam Chairman, on House Bill 1136 as amended, Delegate Bagnall,
Yes.
Delegate Barnes,
Yes.
Delegate Carey,
Yes.
Delegate Chang,
Yes.
Upstairs.
Delegate Chisholm,
Yes.
Delegate Henson,
Yes.
Delegate Howard,
Yes.
Delegate Jones,
Yes.
Delegate Kipke,
Yes.
Delegate Lehman, Delegate Malone,
Yes.
Delegate Payne Melnick,
Yes.
Delegate Rogers,
Yes.
Delegate Saab,
Madam Secretary, Madam Chair, I just want to make sure I wasn't sure if the bill was properly moved and seconded. I know we're voting on it, but I didn't hear that part.
I'm sorry you missed it.
Okay, so absolutely, I vote yes. Thank you.
Chairman Bartlett.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, the vote is 14-0 and the motion passes.
Madam Chairman.
Madam Chair.
Now, just one second. Delegate Nick Kipke.
I was just going to suggest that we leave the vote open for Delegate Lehman since she's presenting in the other delegation so she can be recorded.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair, just a point of personal privilege. I really want to thank the members of the subcommittee because they were called on at all kinds of the night, all times of the day, had meetings before most of them like to get up in the morning, and yet they seem to get it done. So really want to thank the members of the alcohol subcommittee for having probably about 6 meetings to get us to this point. So just wanted to put that on the record and thank them, as well as the folks from the liquor board who also participated in the deliberations.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rogers. We will leave the, Madam Secretary, please circle back to Delegate Lehman to get her vote on this particular bill, and also on House Bill 901, if you could circle back to her. Last, I would ask that you send a letter to the Economic Matters Committee and as soon as possible on House Bill 680 and House Bill 1136, since those hearings are being held today. Thank you very much. Bill hearing, unless we have any other comments or questions, we're going to move to bill hearing. We have House Bill 1343, Anne Arundel County Central Committee Republican Requirements, Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This bill would change the districts that Central Committee members run in. Instead of running in legislative districts, they would run in county council districts. The reason for that is, as you know, some of our districts cross county borders. And so some of our members represent a very small part of the county, while others represent much larger parts of the, have much larger districts. So it just changed the districts they run in. I do have an amendment that will be offered. The way the bill was drafted, I just didn't think about it, but it would have increased the number of members, and nobody wants that. So I do have an amendment that would have 2 members in each of the councilmatic districts, and I'll get that letter to the delegation. I'll get that amendment to the delegation very quickly. The legislation is supported by the County Central Committee. They just sent me that letter, and I'll get that out as well by email. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Kipke. And with any changes to redistricting, would the effect of your bill still be the same?
Yes, it wouldn't, because it would be council districts, it would remain the same.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Carey.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Delegate, does it change the number of Central Committee members currently if you go from legislative districts to councilmanic districts?
It does, and that's the way the bill was drafted, but it was just an error. It would greatly increase the number of members, which is not something that was the intent. And so I have an amendment that will address that.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
Delegate Saab.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm sorry, I haven't. So yeah, I mean, I think we're going, right now we have 5 and there's 3 members in each district, that's 15. But then we're gonna go from 7, which we have 7 councilmanic district times 2, that's 14 members. So we're gonna have an even number.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So how would that work with when you're actually voting? And in the past, a lot of voting has been, not unanimous. So if they're voting to replacement for an office, how would that work?
An excellent point, Delegate Saab. We'll have to talk with them about that. This is something that was introduced at request, but I don't think that they've necessarily about that. So we'll have to have that conversation with them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing. I'm assuming, Delegate Kipke, there weren't any witnesses. Okay, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 1343. Do we have any announcements? No polar bear plunges?
Not this
Okay, great.
week.
Hey,
Not this
tomorrow's
week.
Sid's birthday, so happy birthday early to Sid.
Yes, that is correct. Happy birthday,
Correct.
Sid.
A big one, 50, right? 50?
Wow, again?
And tomorrow is Delegate Rogers' birthday. So happy birthday to you, Delegate.
And happy
Right.
birthday
Happy
to
birthday,
Happy
Mike.
birthday.
That's my
Yeah.
younger
Thanks,
brother.
Delegate
My younger
Carey. I was
brother.
trying to fly under the radar on that one.
I wasn't gonna let you.
I'm sorry. You know,
So
Hey,
it,
look,
it always goes back to Delegate Howard as being the culprit for those kinds of things. But
exactly.
We'll take care of you in ECM, Delegate Howard.
But we'll take care of him on March 17th.
Oh,
That's
Very good. Well, under normal circumstances, we would sing happy birthday to you. However, thank goodness we can't sing together on our virtual, but happy birthday to you all and to
Thank you.
Delegate Saab and to Delegate Rogers and Vice Chair Rogers. All
Thank
right.
you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? All right. We